Good morning, aka Padders. What is happening? I'm Peter A. DeLuca, aka Pad, your host, and right here, right now, we're not done with Spider-Man. We are talking old webhead Spider-Man. Far From Home. I saw the movie about 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Don't let that distract you. Don't let the Marvel Phase 4 news distract you. That's an episode coming up. That's the next episode. But here and now, we're talking more about good old Peter Parker and his newest cinematic adventure, Spider-Man Far From Home. Let's hit that music. Alright, so everyone is just going bonkers. They're just losing their mind over Marvel Phase 4, Marvel Studios Phase 4, the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But we're not really going to discuss that because there's enough happen. Every time you talk about a Marvel movie, you have to talk about every single Marvel movie that's a part of the cinematic universe. And it makes everything complicated. It just makes it hard. I don't want to call them Twitter wars. I'll call them Twitter back and forths. But even people, there's such a dedicated core to these movies. They don't care. They really don't care about quality, and they don't care about continuity. And when we have a collision and a deconstruction of those two, it's really hard to reason and just to kind of convey a different point of view and to push where you are, meaning, this is how I see it. This is how I saw the film. Doesn't this bother you? Did this bother you? It becomes dogmatic from the other perspective, and they just don't care. You become the enemy, and they want to shut you down. But that's kind of internet. That's just the way it goes on the internet, regardless of either way. Most of the time, I really try and hit the middle. I want to know what the diehards are drawn to, and I want to know what the with the descending or the ascension. I want to know what the dissension is, what those opinions are, because I really feel like this instant adulation did lead right into Star Wars The Last Jedi and what happened with the Star Wars franchise. And if you're not familiar with what exactly happened with Star Wars The Last Jedi, and that overflowed right into Captain Marvel. Okay, it's this social justice warrior angle. It's activism within cinema, within storytelling, within the characters, where people are more interested in the characters' identification, how they identify themselves, more than the story itself. And there's people that have done fantastic work, studies, and drew up reports, and really went into some of the analytics of just the rate of characters being bisexual, the rate of characters being transgender, the rate of characters being a homo, being gay, okay, characters of color and their portrayals and the rate of those portrayals. Now, a lot of that stuff is mostly true, okay, but it really comes down to your worldview and your stance, meaning that you're going, if just seeing one thing makes you happy, and you ignore all of these other elements, and most of these elements are brought up through discipline, meaning good storytelling, good directing, filmmakers comfortable enough to draw out the intent of the movie, subtlety. Now, those are the pieces of filmmaking that takes constant practice. You constantly, as a filmmaker, as a studio, you want your guys and your girls, whatever, you guys know what I'm saying, but you want them to be hardened and practiced enough so that when there's a big opportunity, like with one of these tentpole movies, that all of this stuff comes together, that what you learn through the independent ranks and all these other things, and you hope that it comes together in a satisfying, and I will say, artistic way. The artistry of film is mostly, it's just mostly by chance. The quality is mostly by chance. I know a lot of you don't agree with that, but what am I getting at here? What am I getting at with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and what am I getting at with Spider-Man: Far From Home? I'm seeing a erosion of this, that pretty much the money alone from The Last Jedi and the money from Captain Marvel is just validating this practice now, and I think that one of the repercussions is we're going to see a fall of storytelling. We're going to see a fall of cinematic structure. We're going to see a fall of developing characters. It was already confusing when Hollywood went global and they needed more of the international box office than they did domestic. Storytelling already got confusing from that, and you can point right to the Transformer franchise for that, because the Transformer movies became very optical. They were fully optics. The characters, cartoons, the storylines longer, so you would get more bang for your buck. Everything pushing 2 hours, and you would just I don't want to say it, but not it's antiquated, but I would say like 90s MTV style directing. And I hate that term. I hate using. I'm only using it now to move forward. And that type of storytelling was confusing enough within Hollywood, and now we're adding this to it, and it seems like people want this more, which is weird, because when it comes on a international scale, the SJW angle is not going to be global, because these other cultures, they don't want any of it. So this is where it becomes confusing when it comes from a production standpoint. It gets confusing when you sit down to make a movie and you're not familiar with the audience. You don't know how to market it. You don't know what product you're making and who you're making it for. It's frustrating. It's frustrating. And I felt a lot of that when I was watching Spider-Man: Far From Home. Full circle here, people. Yeah, we're just swinging. Because Far From Home seemed to have a lot of these elements, and would it have been different if these elements were not there? I don't know, because I felt like the structure of the movie alone, I felt like easily the first hour when they, I'm getting, my brain's just scrambled here. Okay, let's back it up. The movie kind of opens with a great exposition. If you're a fan of RoboCop 2, wonderful exposition, news stories. Starship Troopers. I love the new segments in Starship Troopers. This is a Paul Verhoeven technique, also in Total Recall with the commercials. So we go back to high school. It's the morning news, the morning high school news, and we everything's explained to us. The snap is not the snap; it's called a blip, which is really weird. It should really be called, I don't know why they wouldn't know about the snap at that point, since since Thanos did land on Earth through a time portal and fight. You could just say, this is the guy we're fighting. Everyone got resurrected from the dead, and we fought the guy that snapped everyone away. It's just weird that the snap wouldn't hit the lexicon. But the people who knew about the snap, I guess maybe we're not around. I get that, but whatever. The audience was so drawn into calling it a snap. Them going the path of the blip. I get it, but it just didn't feel right, and it didn't hit right. And I got questions from people asking why it was called the blip and not the snap, and it's tough to explain every single time. You don't want to explain that, especially in like the first 5 minutes of a effing movie. But anyway, and then it's explained that people aged 5 years while the people from the blip came back. Okay, so now we're adding additional exposition and explanation from Avengers Endgame. Perfect. These are the things I love, people. I love drawn out details like this. But guess what? I'm trying to watch a Spider-Man movie, and I'm not getting any setup and explanation of who Peter Parker is. So like the first like 10 minutes, I'm learning about another movie that's actually 3 hours long. Okay, actually another 2 movies, so maybe like like 6 hours worth of movie watching. And we get into the high school stuff, and no one's older than Peter Parker, even though they just explained that everyone is aged 5 years because there's a 5-year time jump within Avengers Endgame. It jumps forward 5 years. So everyone's been dead or disappeared for 5 years. And then it's we gotta go on a trip. Everyone's the same age, and Nick Fury rolls in, and I kind of like the way that they use Fury in this, because he's bobbing and weaving the trip so Peter Parker can do things to help Mysterio. Which again, the Mysterio angle in this and the hook is fantastic. Everyone kind of goes on and on about this exposition scene where it's Peter Parker and Mysterio, and Peter Parker leaves a bar, and when he leaves a bar, it's the exposition, and you find out that how much of a ruse Mysterio is. Now, Mysterio somehow convinced everyone that there's these elementals attacking Europe, and that Mysterio is from an alternate Earth that happened during the some of the rifts with the snap, or with the use of the Infinity Gauntlet, which is kind of cool. But he's not, and I don't know how you would trick people with that. Like, I don't know, like, I would just think, like, oh, okay, so you just told people things, you didn't like simulate it. Okay, so, and that's part of Mysterio's hook. They're using former Tony Stark employees, Stark Tech, to trick people into thinking these elementals, and to like, they're tricking the satellites, they're tricking the seismographs, and they're fooling everyone so Mysterio will be a hero. And then once Mysterio is a hero on a Avengers level, like, it's rocking and rolling. Like, and so my mind wanders a lot when I'm at these like junctures within these movies, because the whole time I'm thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if he gets away with it, and then Mysterio gets his own movie, but it's like Thunderbolts. He's masquerading as a hero, and he's a villain the entire time, and he's actually doing like really dastardly like villainous things. And I'm like, wow, wouldn't it be cool if the first like villain driven MCU movie was Mysterio? And I was like, yo, and for a while it really looked like that's the way it was going to go, because the odds that were stacked up against Parker, and this is the power of the filmmaking here, because like, you were like, holy crap, like, how's Parker even going to get through any of this, which he does. And so, but we still have like the first hour, like the second part of this movie works and sings and saves the movie, but the first hour, the high school angst, the like the Parkerisms, and I don't know, like, Happy Jon Favreau is having this affair with Marissa Tomei, Mary Jane. You don't buy it, like, at all. You're not really into it. You're not into Peter Parker like being awkward about it and trying to figure it out. Like, you're just not into it, because it doesn't come off as like authentic. But you kind of see like things in there from like an audience standpoint. You see a lot of humor. Like, the humor is good and bad. Like, it lands, sometimes it doesn't. And look, I'm someone that I think Spider-Man Homecoming, I think the humor works in that. I think it's funny. But again, it's a lot of it's Robert Downey Jr. A lot of it is Happy just playing like a one-note type character to react to Peter Parker. So, like, you go almost like the 3 rule. By the 3rd time, like, you can kind of anticipate Happy's reaction to things. This one, like, Happy's kind of driving a little bit more of the story and the plot, and it's just not really delivering. It just wasn't carrying me. And, like, it makes it tough because this movie, it's not great, it's not awful, it's just, again, it's a lot like Captain Marvel. It's just in the middle. The difference between Spider-Man Far From Home and Captain Marvel is that this movie had a satisfying, like, 3rd act. The conflict, what was at stake, everything was clear. The confrontation and the deconstruction of Mysterio and what he was about worked. Again, good villain, good action at the end. Like, resolution, no, not really. I really don't care about the resolution, but I feel like if Captain Marvel had some of those elements, we would have walked away from Captain Marvel feeling the same as we did with Spider-Man Far From Home. And look, Far From Home is killing it at the box office. Like, it looks like it's going to break $1 billion. If it breaks $1 billion, Marvel gets to renegotiate for that 3rd movie, which will most likely be a Phase 5 movie, which is cool. We have Marvel Phase 4 set up. I was hoping that Spider-Man would be a part of Marvel Phase 4 because I feel like they should keep the momentum going with this. And now we're 3 years, maybe 4 years out from another Spider-Man movie. I have a feeling that once they renegotiate, Spider-Man will be wedged into Phase 4. That's my prediction right there. But yeah. So, like, in all, it's really hard for me to, if you like Spider-Man, if you read the comics, if you're familiar with, like, the cartoons, this movie doesn't give you a lot of Spider-Man. I would say Amazing and Tobey Maguire give you more Spider-Man. This is it's the MCU Spider-Man. Finally, after 2 films, we get Spider-Man swinging through skyscrapers in New York City. It took us 2 films, and we're at the end of the 2nd film, and we get it for about 5 minutes. But we get Spider-Man swinging through skyscrapers. Yeah, it took us 2 movies. Actually, if you want to count the other movies, it took us a lot of movies. It took us 4 movies to get to this point. If you consider, maybe 5, right? 5? I guess it's 5. It's 2 Avengers movies and 2 Spider-Man movies and Captain America Civil War. It took us 5 movies, okay? And I saw that, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. It's almost like having a Submariner movie, and he doesn't swim until the end of the 5th time you saw him. You just be like, all right, I'm not watching this. I'm not. It's not Submariner. And there's people will be like, but Pete, like, just sit down and just shut up. Sit down and enjoy it, Pete. Just sit down and enjoy this. We're feeding you something. Just do it. Just do it. And I can't do it. I can't do it because my mind runs. My mind wanders. And I start thinking about things when I'm watching these movies. And actually, when I start paying attention to what's in front of me, it disappoints me and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I really feel like this is where the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe is going. It's going to be disappointing and it's not going to make a lot of sense. Because there's already a ton of questions within Marvel Phase 4. Just logical questions that are just, I don't know, are probably going to be explained after we've seen the movie by some panel, by some director making a comment. And if it's not within the movie, it doesn't count. This is like the old Star Wars argument, okay? If we don't see it in the movie, it doesn't count within, like, continuity or anything. Star Trek, different, because the Star Trek continuity weaved out and in of those movies. Star Wars wanted to do it, but George Lucas just shut it down with the, with the prequels. The prequels, George Lucas said no. And they kind of did the same with these new films. They said we're going to weave everything, but we're going to restart. So whatever. But look, everyone, if you're really into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is a movie for you. It really is. If you just want things that make no sense, that are quote unquote continuity, this is the movie for you. if you want to watch a superhero movie and an adaptation of one of the greatest superheroes, I would say no. This is not the movie for you. There's other Spider-Man movies, thank God. But hey, bravo to Sony. Post Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, which people now view as disappointments, Sony's been on a roll with just cranking out Spider-Man content between Venom, Multiverse, 2 Spider-Man movies, 2 Spider-Man Avenger movies. I mean, like, they really brought the character back, like all hands are on deck type of situation, which does make you hopeful for Fantastic Four and X-Men eventually when we'll get those. But good job, Sony, I'll say. Like, now it's not really Marvel Cinematic Universe, or Marvel Studios. It's really Sony, putting the right people in place. So bravo to them. And people don't give Sony enough credit. But look, everyone, it's just my hot take, my 3-week-long hot take on the on Spider-Man Far From Home. And this pretty much concludes the arc of the AKAPAD's Audio Audacity podcast, because the latest 100 episodes have been all about good old Webhead. I'm going to get going. Episode 212, the next episode will be Marvel Phase 4. I'm going to just break that all down. That'll probably be tomorrow, so just be on the lookout for that. And if you're listening on Anchor, hey, what's up? What's happening? Spotify, I love you, but we're growing. Network after network. We're almost everywhere. So hey, AKAPAD Army, I love you. Rock and roll. Thanks for everything.